This is Movie Tone, Geoffrey Shirley reporting. The worst plane disaster in the history of London Airport when a BEA Vanguard from Edinburgh crashed as it came into land. 36 people, 30 passengers and a crew of 6 died as the plane disintegrated into flames shortly after 1 a.m. It had been a foggy night, but visibility was more than 500 yards as the plane came in on its third attempt to land. It had been circling over the airport for nearly an hour before making its final approach. As we go to press, airport and government officials are seeking the reason for the disaster, the first to a BEA Vanguard in its 5 years of service. It's believed the pilot was trying to overshoot the runway when he crashed. 9 million passengers have been carried safely by BEA Vanguards since the airline first introduced them into regular service. It was suggested that a sudden fog bank could have caused the disaster. Ironically, it was fog that saved the lives of 6 people, the regular crew who had not been able to reach Edinburgh in time to fly the plane to London.
Edinburgh at midnight. When it approached runway 28 right, next to the Bath Road, the pilot decided to overshoot, which means to go round again. Shortly afterwards, he came in the second time, this time approaching runway 28 left. Again, presumably because of fog, the pilot overshot and then went to hold off several miles away over the Watford radio beacon. He circled the beacon, probably for about 40 minutes, at around 5,000 feet. Then the Vanguard came in for a third attempt on runway 28 right. On the run-in, the pilot was being talked down in the foggy conditions. He told the tower, "I am going to overshoot." They were his last words. It was 1:23. Within seconds of the crash, rescue parties, police and firemen were on their way to runway 28 right. But they had to stand by helpless, beaten back by the overpowering heat. For the 36 people aboard, no chance of survival. Daylight revealed the full extent of the horror. It was BEA's worst disaster and the worst accident in the history of London Airport. The last fatal crash there was in 1961. The £1 million Vanguard had left Edinburgh at 11:17 last night. In the cold light of London's dawn, it lay on the runway, a twisted heap of fire-ravaged metal. Our man on the spot there, Peter Snow.
From a tape recording made of the pilot's voice just before the crash, it seems that he decided definitely to make the landing until the last moment. At the very last moment, it seems that he decided to again overshoot the runway, and he started to climb, but he was too near the ground. His tail dipped and hit the ground. The tailpiece fractured the fuel tanks. The whole plane became a ball of fire the moment the tailpiece came off and fractured the tanks. For 500 yards, the plane somersaulted down the runway. A trail of damage goes right the way down there, about 500 yards. When the plane finally came to rest, here just behind me, it was facing back in the direction from which it had come. And only about 20 of the 36 passengers were still in the wreckage when it got here. Most of them were scattered for 500 yards along the runway.
In bad visibility, how far does the decision to land rest with the pilot himself once he's been talked down? Peter Snow put the question to a man who's flown Vanguards and Tridents, a senior BEA pilot, Captain 𝗢𝗰𝘁cie𝗯𝗲𝗿.
Well, he is, of course, guided by the visibilities passed to him from the control tower, but it is still his ultimate responsibility to judge whether he can see sufficiently when he's low down on the approach to carry out a safe and successful landing.
What happens, in fact? The control tower say, right, the visibility here is 400 yards, you should be okay.
That is so.
Then what do you say to yourself?
Well, if the visibility is above the minimum prescribed by your company, you make your approach, and when you get down to the minimum prescribed height, then you must judge whether you can in fact see sufficient of the runway or the runway lights in order to land safely. If you cannot see sufficient in your judgment, then you must overshoot.
But in your opinion, would it be at all possible to make a mistake?
Well,
how fallible is a pilot over this visibility question?
We are all human, but I think it's true to say we're all very conservative in this respect. And I wouldn't think that one would leave this to chance.
Can I ask you one final question? What are what is pressing you to get down on the ground, apart from simply wanting to get down on the ground? Is there anything, any commercial interest, any time interest, any fuel interest in getting down as quick as you can?
No, none whatsoever. None.
How then can fog crashes be averted? One way is with the automatic touchdown system now used in some BEA Tridents. It's called autoflare, and it's designed to revolutionize bad weather flying. The electronic control system, long used for cruising in fog, can now level out the plane and bring its wheels to the runway in the right place at the right speed. The no-hands landing has been achieved in a Trident full of fare-paying passengers, but it needs a lot of development before it'll actually bring planes down in very thick fog, and before it can be adapted to other planes. Last night's tragedy underlines the need for more safety devices and will no doubt hasten the progress towards them. The Vanguard's been in service with BEA since 1961. The airline had a fleet of 20 of them until last night. They'd carried 9 million passengers without a fatal accident until last night. That record came to grief on London Airport's runway 28R, the scene of countless trouble-free landings like this one.
Gear down, altimeter set, airfield and runway 28 right. Your damper is off. Stabilizer trim, brake off, flaps 40 set, and icing up. Gear check. 3 greens, locked down, 4 rails.
Established now, 28 right.
This is a Boeing 707 being talked down in good visibility. Millions of landings like it have been made in bad visibility too. Talking down is the normal procedure.
Nominate 2, good day. London Tower, Foxtrot Mike, established on the ILS, 28 right.
Just how safe is air travel? In spite of tragedies like last night's, the figures speak for themselves. Statistically, you would have to spend 80 years in a plane before you became due for an accident. But to eliminate all risk, all flying is cancelled when runway visibility drops below safety level. For a Vanguard landing at London Airport, that level is 400 yards. The Vanguard was being talked down last night.
$100 knots.